It is our college basketball preview show. Patrick Stevens, who you follow at Discourse on Blue Sky and Twitter, that's D1S Course, is in studio with us once again. The best place to watch all of the big games, every big event, is Inside Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Great food, great drink specials, and just an awesome atmosphere at Live Casino and Hotel, Sports and Social. We continue along on the college basketball preview show, and it's always a pleasure to welcome back to the program the head coach of the Towson Tigers. He is Coach Pat Skerry. Coach, it's good to see you. Appreciate you joining us as always. Thank you for making the time for us.
Appreciate you guys having me, man. I literally just got in from a flight and hustled to the office. Always good to see a couple of guys that I like around here.
We missed having you in here to hang out with us, but we'll be over to see you for sure. You know that as the season goes on. Coach, I feel like I asked you the exact same question a year ago, but it's perhaps even more startling to me after the season they had. But what does it say about where Towson is? What does it say about these young men, Tyler Tejada, Dylan Williamson, that they're back and they're doing this again with you guys this season?
Yeah, it says a lot about the type of kids they are, their values, their families. You know, that piece has been, that means a lot to me anyhow. And then obviously we've done a lot of good things here at our institution. But it says a lot about the kids. And they're really good guys to be around on a daily basis. They're good players and they work extremely hard, but they're about the right things too.
We got to have a few conversations, and you could tell that, and it's certainly getting to know Tyler and the story of him and his little brother, who I think is the bigger star of the two of them, correct?
Yeah, we're about to take a commitment from him, I think, in the class of 2036, and we're working on some things right now.
Coach, look, unfortunately, as you know, we've had this conversation too many times over the years as well. How do you handle it when you go through it and the guys deal with the heartbreak, right? Like, what do you leave it alone? Do you tempt the rah-rah thing? Like, how do you handle it to set the tone for an off season in the following year?
Yeah, the guys put everything into it, and I'm happy that we have expectations, right? I think there's a lot of schools and universities, not only locally, but nationally, would like to have the type of expectations that we have based on the resources that we're provided with, including in our league. So, our guys know what the goal is. But I told this to Patrick. He was over at practice a couple weeks ago. I mean, I'd be happy to win 3 games in March, but I don't want to win 10 games during the regular season. I don't know if that makes it a great year either. So, we've got a Super Bowl opportunity on November 3rd, and that's really all we've tried to focus on. We've got a lot of work to do to be in similar positions, Glenn, that we've been in the last couple of years, both in the regular season and come CAA tournament time. So I know why some guys are back, and we understand all that stuff, but it's about what we do on a daily basis.
That November 3rd doubleheader in Baltimore, you guys playing Loyola, obviously Maryland, Coppin State in the other game. How did that opportunity come about, and just how excited were you to be able to get that kind of a platform for your program?
Well, I have great respect for Josh and what he's going to do at Loyola. And these aren't easy games. We were beat last year by UMBC and outplayed and outcoached. And that was like the first time in 20-something games that has happened. So, but I am a big believer in playing everyone. That hasn't happened consistently. The Hall of Fame put this together. I'll be perfect. At first, they talked about would we play Maryland, and we said great. And then that wasn't going to happen. And then it was Temple. We said great. And so, like I said, we've taken an approach, especially since COVID. We'll play anybody. We'll play them anywhere. I think our non-conference schedule backs that up. And I just believe there's two things that I'm willing to do for that. One, when you lose 31 games your first year, your overall record's never going to be where it could have been, okay, as you know. And then it's gotten us ready for the league, Patrick. We're 54-18 in our conference the last 4 years, and it's top 12 in the country. And a big part of that is playing good teams like Loyola on November 3rd to get you ready for your league. So that's kind of how it, kind of came together.
I imagine that scrimmaging Rutgers and especially playing an exhibition against St. John's will also get you ready. You guys won the first half at St. John's and obviously put in a pretty good defensive performance for those first 20 minutes or so. Just what were kind of your takeaways from that game, a game that St. John's ultimately won by 10, and just how much do you think that will help you out?
Yeah, I think it'll help us a lot. Both of them are, good programs and really good coaches. We're looking for a couple of balls during the St. John's game. Is still going down Utopia Parkway. We threw them so far out of bounds. So we certainly our defense is ahead of our offense right now. And, we've got to get some things cleaned up. I think anytime it was a really good crowd up at St. John's, so that helped too. And we're still figuring out a lot of stuff. I wish we had, at least one more of these things. But, yeah, I guess when we get hit in the mouth, and we're going to get hit in the mouth by playing some good teams early, hopefully when it happens for real, we're not surprised when we get hit in the mouth.
He is Coach Pat Skerry, Towson basketball coach, with us here on the College Basketball Preview Show. Coach, we talked about your knowns and Tyler and Dylan, but then after that, there is a lot of turnover. There is a lot of change. Who are the group of guys that you envision maybe stepping up a little bit more this year to replace Anenda? And, again, everybody, it seems like basically everything besides those top two, there's going to be a little bit of a change.
Yeah, no, we've got, at the five, Caleb Mbea is a guy we trust on. He really was a starter last year that we brought off the bench. And he'll make a substantial leap. And we got a big 7'1" kid, Morsek, he's good. He's impressed me with his appetite to work and be coached. So we're going to be bigger there. And then we lost two good players in the portal last year, two good guards that we didn't want to lose. And I thought my staff did a great job. They were really intentional. We brought in quickly. I still remember I just touched down in San Antonio. So Thursday of Final Four that we got the kid Jack Doumbia, who's he had 18 against Rutgers and 20 against St. John's. He's a talented guard. You got to try to get him not to keep both teams in the game, but he's pretty good at keeping us in the game. And then Tyler Schmidt from Valpo can really shoot the ball, average 11 a game in the Missouri Valley. So those guys are going to play. And then we've got to get it figured out. We've got some guys back that was sitting out, and Coleman and Cole and Ryan Conway's back for us, and Abdu Sam, who played last year. And then we added some good freshmen. Nadefo, we redshirted him. We're expecting him to play. He started the other day. And Jaquan Womack's been impressive. He had, 13 points up at Rutgers. So we're definitely not there, and that's going to be fluid, I think, for a while.
You mentioned a little earlier your willingness to play anybody pretty much anywhere.
It's insane this year.
But, I don't know if the feeling is necessarily mutual for a lot of good teams out there, not wanting to necessarily see you guys. Was this as tough a year scheduling-wise as you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I would love to play any Atlantic 10, ACC, or Big East team, especially if it's a drive. For anyone that's going to pound us, we've got records of all. We've called everybody, email, text. Pat O'Connell's done a great job. We had no takers, and I'm not saying we would have won those games either. We had no takers, but it takes two to go to the dance, right? Unless you're like Glenn, where you went and you stood on the wall by yourself.
Wait a second.
We didn't want to do that.
Wait a second. You've met my wife. She
you
also,
did a great job recruiting.
Yeah, she also ignored me at that time in my life.
But that's why we've we had no home games, Patrick, in might have been like early June, 0. So I give my athletic director, Steve Eigenbrod, a lot of credit. This is the first time we've ever bought any opponents to come here. And we needed home games. Now, the problem is we bought teams that have like picked to win their league, which is not ideal. So, if you had a treasure chest of money like, Charleston and Wilmington, you could just do whatever you play 9 home games and have great records and all that stuff. But this is how we got to put it together.
You're going to Houston and Kansas this season, and I get it. Like, you've gone to Western Canada, or you've gone to lots of places, but the line between the excitement of playing that program versus maybe even, for example, like a game like Kansas, giving these kids an opportunity to play somewhere like that, and maybe the result perhaps not being as imperative.
No, I mean, it's a Super Bowl. It's an opportunity. Like, it's just, so is November 3rd. I mean, in college basketball, it's just like our conference tournament, right? The best team isn't necessarily going to win. It's for 40 minutes who's going to win. If it was a series, it would be different. We're not going to go to Houston and beat them in a best-of-7 series. It's not going to happen. But, the beauty of college basketball is it's a 40-minute game, and you've got to be at your best for those 40 minutes. So what I'm, to play against a Rick Pitino team or Kelvin Sampson team or Bill Self, I mean, those in my mind are like 3 of the top 5 coaches in the country, probably along with Danny Hurley and Tom Izzo, So you can always obviously take some stuff from there to hopefully, improve our program. But we've tried to take a lot of stuff. We've gotten some good compliments by some couple NBA guys that have been in saying you guys are like you're like the Houston of the East, and I'm not ready to say that by any stretch, but I certainly would take that as a compliment.
You mentioned him in passing a little bit earlier, but more sec gives you guys more size, no pun intended, than you've probably had.
The pun was definitely intended. Don't let him lie like that. Don't.
More size than you've probably had, even for a team that you guys have had some big guys in the past, but just what kind of a different dimension does he provide you coming in from Fresno State?
Yeah, one, he's gotten in great shape, and he can block shots. We were looking for shot blocking and offensive rebounding rate. And I'll be honest with you, Pat O'Connell did a great job finding him. Charleston and Wilmington went out and got 7-footers this offseason, and we felt like we might need, we were a little bit at times smaller and sometimes even gentler last year than we would like to be. But we had really good execution. This group is very competitive, but a little bit volatile. So we've got to we can't we've got to be competitive, but we still have to have a good measure of execution.
Pat, we bring up the knowns, right? We bring up Tyler and Dylan. What's even maybe still different? Are there ways where even they can be better that you've seen? Something about them, their drive, the way they prepared for this season that, it's hard in particular to imagine that with Tyler because he just does everything well. But what is maybe even different about those guys going into this?
Well,
season?
Listen, they've both have really worked hard this offseason. I mean, off the charts, as good as I've ever had. And they've improved their bodies. I mean, Tyler's 236 pounds, and he's moving really well. They're both much improved defensively. But even right now, I had them in on Monday morning, and we went through all their shots and some of their playmaking, and this is the standard is high for both them internally and for what we need. So there's a lot of things they've got to get better at. Now, I'm gonna play them a lot, and doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. But I think if you came to practice, you'd see I'm not coaching them any differently when they're on the goal team. And there's a couple of days if they didn't get it done, they've heard it about you got the big name, not so much with your game, and guys are kind of. The good thing I like about this group, especially with guys like Nadefo and Womack, those two guys, like if they ain't with the goal, they're trying to they're trying to start a riot. I mean, Nadefo and Wilma, like they come after Tejada all the time, especially Nadefo. And that piece, it reminds you a little bit more, Pat, when we had like Guthrie and Damas around Benjamin, like those guys. Now you don't have to motivate Tyler, which is great, but once in a while with Jarrell, like if he lost, those guys would start chirping, and then the big fellow would really get motivated. So I'm hoping by having some depth that we can maintain chemistry and cohesion, but also be a little more forceful. We dipped a little bit defensively last year, and that wasn't good. It wasn't, and ultimately that probably cost us. We didn't have a great shooting night against Delaware, but really, if we really locked down like we normally have, it wouldn't have mattered. So this group, we can't slip. We've had two really good defensive efforts in the scrimmage and exhibition, and that has to be something that it just becomes incredibly challenging to play against us.
How much do you think that added defensive emphasis, which I know is probably not the right phrase to describe for your coaching approach, but added defensive emphasis kind of dovetail with a desire to, create a little more transition, create a few more easy baskets?
Yeah, we need to. We need to. We have to be able to attack the ball. We got to get out, strike quickly in transition. That's something we're still fighting because, every guy tells you want to run, and we've shown a lot of film this fall. Like, you guys say you want to run, I'm going to be the one that hears that we're not running, and here's the film, we ain't running. Like, you got to strike. We got to strike quickly, So it's still a learning exercise. I mean, these games happen so much earlier now. I mean, like November 3rd is the Super Bowl, and we got to play really well in order to win. But after that, like, we got to evaluate. We got to continue to get better because ultimately it is about your regular season in the conference and then in your conference tournament. This year is a little different, right? If we were fortunate enough to have this magical non-conference, then you and I might have a different conversation in conference play.
I feel like, again, we'll ask this question every year, but what you just brought up, when we say what's the difference, right? Like, how is this the year that it finally breaks through? Is the defense to you, is that the answer, that's the difference?
No, it's everything. I mean, one is staying healthy. When we won our first regular season title, Charlie Thompson gets hurt in the quarterfinals. We were the first in offense in the league, first in defense. The only other time that happened, I believe, was when Mason went to the Final Four in the history of the league, I think. So it just doesn't happen. I just want to be in that same position. Like, my first thing is like, hey, can we go 12-1, 11-2, and we've got national TV opportunities, a lot of them in the non-conference. And then we got to get in the league, right? And can we win another regular season title? And we got to do it against a couple of plays. Like, my place has gotten a lot more committed, but we've got Charleston and Wilmington. You talk about this age of paying players. It's like an empty barrel. Like, these guys just picking up 9-10 new guys every year, writing out blank checks. But here we are. We're ready. We're going to be ready for them. And we have great respect for them, but we'll be ready for them. And then after that, then we better be the best team for 3-4 days. And that's March Madness. That's what you're judged on. But I have every bit of belief and faith in this group, but we've got to keep getting better. And if you don't do everything right, you're not going to be in that position. You could do everything right, and someone throws in a half-court shot on you in a conference tournament, and that's the way it goes. And like I told you initially, and you've been a great fan and supporter. The expectations of our program, internally and externally, have changed, and I'm excited about that because that means people care, and that's what they want. But I also know nationally we probably get more respect than we do, locally at times. And how could I say that? Well, look at the schedule. Nobody will play us. I mean, like, nobody will play us. locally. So, people know we're going to be pretty good. But there's a lot of teams in our league, Glenn, that are going to be pretty good.
Yep.
And there's only one going. Heck, there's only probably one going from the Atlantic 10, right? So it's I hope it's us. If you've got some magic that you can make sure, you think
I haven't done everything in my power. I've sent my kids over there to try to help. They made the handshake line for you one night.
How about like Wedding Crashes, where they had the eye solution in the guy's drink? You know what I mean? And then they knocked out half the line.
You're gonna have to get Griffin on that. That's not gonna be my area, but he's willing to do anything. Coach.
I'll see what I can do, Coach. I promise.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get him on that one.
I like that. Right. That's the old thing, Griffin. Are you interested? Or are you committed? Right. I mean, there's a difference.
It's the what was the story of like the chicken and the
pig
and the
pig. That's right.
Yeah, right. That
right.
pig is committed.
That's right. That's right.
Pat, we'll be over to see you. Always appreciate taking the time. Thanks for hopping on with us this morning.
All right. Appreciate all the great things you guys do for the local basketball. Keep it up.
Thanks, Coach. Pat Skerry with us here on the College Basketball Preview, your thumbnail on the Tigers.
So Tyler Tejada and Dylan Williamson are a great place for any CAA team to start.
Yep.
It's interesting. He's talking about the national perspective versus the local perspective, and he's right. I do think Towson probably gets more credit from a national perspective because there is a program that has a defensive identity, a program that consistently finds itself in the hunt for 20-win seasons. I think locally it's easy and understandable too to get caught up in, can you get past the semifinals of the CAA tournament? And I know we talked about this the day after last year, and I'll bring it up again. Like, you could look at some of those previous conference tournament struggles and say, well, the other team was better, or they just had a great day, or whatever. Like, you get the number 12 seed. You're the regular season champs. You get the 12 seed. That's already played like 3 or 4 games in this tournament, and you can't get past that. Like, that's something that you got to answer for. And I know that some of those guys that have returned, like I talked to Tyler Tejada about it. He said it took him like a week before he watched it, and he watched it, and like it's hard. It's hard for those guys to process that, and so there's part of this thing is you're going to get measured on, can you win that game and can you win the game after? Because essentially that's all Towson really has left to do under Pat Skerry that they haven't done already. I mean, they had a few of those like A10 wins and whatnot floating around out there earlier in his tenure. They've had a fantastic turnaround. They've won regular season titles. If somebody had told you that Towson was going to be a team that you expected to win 20 games a season, and you said that in 2011 when Pat Skerry arrived, nobody would have taken you seriously. They had been routinely terrible for a decade plus. So, it is a program that is in far better health than it was and it could be, but there is that one thing missing, and gosh, you only get so many times where you have a returning conference player of the year. There's only 5 of them in all of Division I basketball that are back from last season. So, you have Tejada, you've got Williamson, and you've got some other really interesting pieces. I think Jack Doomby is going to be a guy that, as Pat says, like if he can avoid throwing the ball into the stands, he had 7 turnovers against St. John's, but he also scored 20 points. So that's a guy that can play off of Williamson pretty well. I think, that's a team, I think out of everybody around here that all the coaches that we're talking to, that's the team that has the best chance of making the NCAA tournament.
This print issue of Press Box has a lot of college basketball content in it, including meeting players from every program around the state. A good cover story from Don Marcus about New Maryland Athletic Director Jim Smith. You can go get that today at your Baltimore area High's Dairy Store. That's the new pickup location, the new central location for the print issue of Press Box is the Baltimore area High's Dairy Stores. So go pick it up there. Read it all, PressBoxOnline.com.